Welcome to Life Enrichment Ministries. This is Carol Clemens, and for you that have been following me on my Carol Theobald Clemens page, you know that I have not been doing anything live, hardly at all, for the last 10 weeks because my husband had a horrible fall on August the 13th, and it was due to a loose hip replacement from 207. And that fall, he shattered his left femur bone. And of course, the hip replacement was loose. And so he had to have very serious surgery. And it's been 10 weeks. We've just been back home for 1 week. And during this 10 weeks, I have not been able to do my ministry like I do nationwide, where I provide counseling as a certified pastoral counselor on a weekly basis, Monday through Thursday. I've not been able to do that. So I had to put everybody on hold that I was counseling. And then I've had some new people call throughout this 10 weeks. And I just decided to do another video on the subject of pornography addiction. I am a certified sexual addiction recovery facilitator, along with being a Christian life coach. That's another thing I do. And I'm certified in that, and being a certified pastoral counselor. And I have just been impressed in my heart to just make some notes of facts about pornography addiction. And I'm going to read a paragraph or a sentence, and then I'm going to make comments on it. Because, and I'll tell you why, and I called it on this, what is the most damaging addiction? I'm hoping that Facebook will leave this video up and will not take it down. I am planning on downloading it as quickly as possible and putting it on my YouTube channel, Carol Clemens YouTube. And I also need about 700 people to go to my YouTube channel and take about 2 minutes, less than that, and subscribe, because they took away my ability to go live because I only have 300 and some subscribers. And I haven't figured out how to work around that. So if you'll do that for me, if you're watching, go to Carol or YouTube and then just put Carol Clemens in. You have to be sure to spell it Clemans, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. But what I'm going to do, I just made 2 pages of notes, and I entitled this, "The Devil Delights in Porn Addiction," because it's the ultimate destroyer. And again, I haven't done anything ministry-wise for almost 10 weeks, and my heart's just been burning because people are calling, and Satan is on the rampage. He wants to take everyone to hell, and we have to make a decision. Are we going to go to heaven, or are we going to go to hell? So here is my thoughts, and then I'll make comments. There is hope and healing from porn. This sin needs to come out of the church closet. Porn addiction is the hidden sin in the church that is creating hypocrites. Many of the porn addicted men in the church have an influential position in the church, and that yet they are living a double life with sin in the heart. Now, as I finish this, I'm going to be bringing some information that's going to enlighten you. If you want to have some more and do some study and find out how to get better educated on this, I'm going to let you know. Now, what you might find surprising is 50 to 75%, and this is from more than one survey, so it's probably a higher percent than what they've showed. 50 to 75% of all males who attend church, including ministry, use pornography at some point. Exposure to porn is common between the ages of 8 to 10 years. For a young boy, I'm focusing tonight on male addiction, pornography addiction. Statistics say there's about 35% of women. In my ministry for the last 27 years that I've been counseling on this issue, the women are down in the low, that call me, are probably less than 10%. But the nationwide surveys say that's about 35%. But listen to this, the average exposure for young boys is between the ages of 8 and 10 years. And I said this is true in my counseling ministry, that I'll ask for the history, because The few things I'm going to be telling you tonight, most people that are addicted to pornography have no knowledge about it whatsoever. They just know they're addicted, but they don't understand the addiction. They don't understand the horrific impact that it has on them and those others that are around. And so I'm just going to give a few facts about those tonight, and then give you some information on how to get better educated, because out of this 50 to 75% in the audience that's going to watch this video, you're probably going to be 50% of the people that watch this video have been touched by porn addiction. Because what I was getting phone calls from in the 10 weeks that I've not been able to counsel, and I'm just going to give a short update. My husband and I have been home out of the second rehab for 5 weeks. We've been home now for a week, and he is slowly gaining strength. The therapist today that comes in 3 times a week told us that many people that break their femur bone are never able to walk again. So my husband is blessed that he not only shattered the femur bone, but popped out because of the loose hip replacement from 207 that had to also be replaced. And he had very serious surgery, and he is blessed to even be walking with a walker. And we are praying for God to infuse his strength into him. So he's sitting across the room from me now as I start my first getting back into ministry. But the reason, as I started to say in the beginning, I was getting phone calls while I was in rehab with my husband, and I could not promise when I was going to counsel, but I would give a few words of encouragement and tell books to read and sites to go to. But it was either the husband, the male, that was addicted, or it was the wife of the male that was addicted. And those were the people that were calling me on top of all the other waiting lists that I have that I had to just put on hold. That's why I felt like I had to do this video, and Lord willing, it will be pinned to the top of this Life Enrichment Ministry page. So when we think about that statistic, and I want to stress that 50 to 75% of all males attending church, including ministry. That's one reason it needs to come out of the closet, because the Lord is coming soon. And you know what the focus of my ministry is to work with people that have had a born-again salvation experience from Acts 2:38. And we can have that salvation experience, but if we allow sin to rule and reign in our lives, we will not be ready to go when Jesus comes. And that's the thing about it. Jesus could come at any moment. He could come at any moment. And what we all have to challenge ourselves is our heart right with God. Well, if we're dabbling in a secret sin, it's not right with God. So let me go ahead and read what I've written down here. Porn addiction is a self-induced chemical addiction. This was medically proven years and years ago. And the first time I heard that phrase was on Dr. James Dobson when he was on Focus on the Family. And I'm talking probably, I've been counseling now for 27 years. And I am talking, that's probably was 15, I don't know, years ago. That one day he said, we're talking about a sensitive subject, and he brought in professionals in all areas of life regarding porn addiction, because years ago under President Reagan, he was on a committee nationwide and even had his life threatened, Dr. James Dobson did, because he was so against porn addiction. So what we have to look at, porn addiction is a self-induced chemical addiction, medically proven. Porn addiction destroys the body, the mind, the soul, the marriage, and relationships, and especially including with God. I just need to focus there. We cannot have a healthy relationship with God and be involved in pornography addiction. It's impossible. In one of the books that I recommend, it talks about that the addicted person has a lonely core soul, because they can't tell anybody about what they're doing. And they're always having to put on, that's how they learn to be hypocrite, because they have to put on a persona that everything is fine, and it's not fine. And so it creates physical brain damage. Now, this has been proven by modern day science that it creates a physical brain damage. When I start counseling someone that is new to calling me for help with pornography addiction, I said, what do you know about pornography addiction? And they really don't know much other than, as I said, they're addicted. What it does, and this is how I tried to do it in lay language because I don't even understand all the technical verbiage of the brain, but it creates physical brain damage. If you look at the brain as a healthy wheat field, every time porn is acted out on self, it is like mowing down one swath of the wheat field. And the brain screams for that chemical high continually. So it creates something in the brain that is a greater stimuli, and I'm getting ahead of myself, than any other sexual activity. One of the reaction when I'm counseling some people, or if that husband is involved if he has a wife and the wife is concerned, and I even have to ask, are you watching pornography? Sometimes they'll say, no, I'm not using porn. But see, this is what I know about it. Porn addiction is more damaging than any drug that you can get as prescription, or street drug, or alcohol. And they will say, I'm not using porn. But what we have to understand about porn is indelibly inked on the brain as a movie screen. Just the thought is all it takes. Just a thought is all it takes. So if people are not using new pornography, where they're watching it on the internet, it can just be the thought of it, and it's indelibly inked, and the men will tell me it's like a movie screen and it's just going all the time. So they don't need to be watching new porn to act out with porn. And here is the plain language that I have to use. Having sex with self while thinking on porn, which you're lusting, creates a greater chemical high in the brain than any God-designed gift of sex for marriage. I want to say it again. Having sex with self while thinking on porn, lusting, creates a greater chemical high in the brain than any God-designed gift of sex for marriage. Some men have told me, my wife can't pleasure me anymore. There's nothing that we can do that gives me the great feeling of what it does when I am addicted to pornography. And so I want to share a couple of scriptures. Matthew 5:27-28 in the New King James Version talks about adultery in the heart. And this is Jesus's words while he was here on earth. You have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not commit adultery. But verse 28 says, but I say to you, that's the God in the flesh, Jesus Christ, that whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. This has been a controversy thing. Well, I'm not touching anybody. I'm not with anybody else, so it's not adultery. No, Jesus Christ himself in the flesh said in Matthew 5:27-28, you have heard that it was said to those of old, meaning in the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say to you that whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And see, the sin originates in the heart. Romans 13:14 tells us to put ye on the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, Romans was written to the church, born again of water and of spirit. So back to Romans 13:14, put ye on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provision for the lust of the flesh. Make no provision for the lust of the flesh. And this is what is happening with people that are involved in pornography in the church. They are committing adultery in their heart in the sight of God. And that's just the same as committing adultery with an individual. And so I know a lot of people won't like what I'm saying, but this is truth. So there is a path to freedom. Confess the sin, and God is faithful and just to forgive. And then be committed to do the hard work that will give you freedom. You know, James 4:7, again, that was a letter written to the born-again church, says, submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Now, no one can be acting out using pornography and satisfying themselves and be submitted to God. I'm just going to talk plain. And it's interesting as I watch this, usually when I start a video on my life enrichment ministry, I have several people that join, and I don't know who's watching, but a person will come on and watch and then they'll go off. And that's interesting. It could be because I'm on this hot topic of pornography addiction within the church. Back to that first percentage that I told you, or the percentage that is in several studies, 50 to 70 to 75% of all males attending church are involved in use of pornography, and that includes ministry. No one wants to hear this. That's why I say in the beginning of this that this subject needs to come out of the closet of the church. I want to go to heaven. And what's interesting, the last person that just went on clicked off again. It must be hitting a real hard place for me to be teaching like this, just a short segment that I'm going to have on this, and for people to come on and then to pop off. Because this is happening in the church today, and it is the most damaging addiction, as I put in the little title as I post it, you'll see it. And that people don't want to talk about it. But we've got to submit ourselves, therefore, to God, resist the devil. See, when somebody's involved in sin, if you submit to God and resist the devil, he will flee from you. Each time the porn addicted person chooses God instead of the lust of the flesh and does not act out, new healthy pathways start growing in the brain. See, this is the hope that I give people. You know, when addiction starts, one choice at a time, just like it happened in the Garden of Eden. They were given everything they could have ever desired, Adam and Eve, but they were given one do not command. And that's where Satan come along and said, surely that's not what the Lord means. And he twisted things, and then Eve got twisted, and then she took the fruit. It was not an apple, and she did not polish it on her apron because she didn't have any clothes on. She took the fruit and she ate of it, and then said to Adam, this is so good, you've got to do this. And Adam abdicated his authority. So the New Testament puts the responsibility of that sin on Adam. By one man, sin entered into the world, and by one man, Jesus Christ, salvation came. That's another whole subject that I could teach on for a long time. So back to this, we're talking about porn addiction. No one wants us to get out of the closet with it. I have been dealing with this for 27 years, and we have got to get out of the closet, because when the Lord comes, in the moment, in the twinkling of an eye, there's going to be many people that go through the church doors and put on their Pentecostal calisthenics and look and do the right thing, and yet they will not be ready when Jesus comes, and he could come at any moment. But listen to this. Each time the porn addicted person chooses God instead of the lust of the flesh and does not act out, new healthy pathways in the physical brain start growing. So there is hope and healing for that addiction if we do it with God's design. This is, I've already said it 2 or 3 times, is a heaven and hell issue. Do you want to burn in hell with the devil forever because you have allowed your sexual lust to become your God in earth? God is our creator. The brain can heal as the spiritual heart is transformed. We can be transformed by renewing our minds. Romans 12, 1 and 2. This is a foundational scripture, and it's amazing. Another person came on and went off again, right when I was talking about porn addiction. We're going to see what the outcome is of this. Romans 12, 1 and 2 in the New King James Version says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. You cannot be acting out with porn and be submitting your body as a living sacrifice. This is the challenge that I am making to people. We have got to start addressing this sin in the church, because it is generational and it will affect. I mean, I didn't put this in my notes here, but it goes to sexual abuse. It goes to having affairs. It goes to voyeurism. It goes to flashing. I know men that had leadership in the church went out to parks and flashed themselves, and they got caught, and they are in trouble because of it. I know a man that had ultimate affairs, and then he went, and it's interesting, again, I'm talking about this, and everybody that comes on is going off. Why? Why? It's because it's a subject that no one wants to address. And this man was having multiple affairs, and then he decided to put a camera in the bathroom, in a women's bathroom where he worked. He got caught, and he spent a year and a half in federal prison. No one thinks this is going to happen when they're in the privacy and they're using pornography to satisfy the lust of their flesh. But this is what Paul was talking to the church at Rome. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by renewing the mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Now, I told you that I was going to share with you how to get more educated on this. And this needs to be for ministry leaders, for everybody. If there's a hint, if you know anybody, and again, it is so pervasive among us. It's on your telephones. It's on your, and that's even children can put an innocent word into a Google search and pornography can smack them right in the face. So we need to get educated. And there is a site called fightthenewdrug.org. Fightthenewdrug.org. Go to that. There's multiple articles. There's all kinds of information. Then this is one of the books that I recommend, but it's very, very educational. Every pastor, every ministry leader, every man of God that claims to have a salvation experience needs to read this book. And it's called Clean, C-L-E-A-N, just Clean, by Dr. Douglas Weiss, W-E-I-S-S. Clean by Dr. W. Weiss. Then if you want to overcome, you need to be a person that's going to go to covenanteyes.com. And this is interesting because the United Pentecostal Church recommends this covenanteyes.com. And it's a program that you install or download on your phones, on your internet, on everything that has connection with the internet. And with that, it makes you have an accountable person that emails are sent to when you get into the wrong things. We must have an accountable person. I won't counsel with someone that doesn't have someone that's a strong spiritual male, if it's a man, that can be that accountable person. And I tell them what they need to be, that it's a person that the addicted person could call at any time, or the accountable person could call the addicted person and have that accountability. In one recent video that I saw regarding a ministry, they believe that you should have a group ministry. And when you think about in the churches today, the high percentage that we're talking about, 50 to 75% of all males attending churches are involved in pornography. This needs to come out of the closet. And this short video is giving you information and tools. So go to fightthenewdrug.org for information. Read the book Clean, Dr. Douglas Weiss. And then for the person that's addicted needs to go to the covenanteyes.com that the United Pentecostal Church recommends. And you must have an accountable person. This again, the devil delights in porn addiction. It's the ultimate destroyer. It destroys marriages. There's always anger issues. The addicted person always wants to blame somebody else. And it's really going to be interesting what happens to this video, as I have been online now for 23 minutes talking about porn addiction in the church. And almost everyone that comes on goes off of it real quickly. And I know that that delights the devil because he wants the churches full of men using pornography in secret. But we're going to learn, we learn how to be hypocrites. And we come to church and we do the Pentecostal calisthenics. We look and we do and we act the right thing, but God knows the heart. And that's what we have to be concerned about. So again, this is Carol Clemens with Life Enrichment Ministries. Go to my webpage, carolclemens.org. There was another one that came on for just a moment and then went off. That is just amazing. This is the first time that I have posted something about porn addiction, and that's what has happened with viewers. So you go to Carol Clemens, CarolClemans.org, and you read the About Ministry page, and it'll tell everything about how I do counseling. And I am just stirred up about this because we need our men to be holy. We need for our men to be the leaders in the church, to be leading their wives and their children into holiness on a daily. And I'm not talking outward, I'm talking about holiness of the heart, how to live godly and have a pure heart before God, because Jesus is coming soon. And I want to be ready, and I'm going to do whatever I can to encourage others, even if I'm a lone voice crying out in the wilderness. So there is hope and healing if you're willing to do the work. And pastors and ministry leaders, get educated and start teaching about this. If you buy the Clean book and you start teaching from that to your congregation, it could be amazing what could happen in your church to bring out this sin and to start healing and issues. And I come to churches and I will teach on it. I can do it through Skype. Right now, I can't go anywhere because of the care of my husband, but I can teach through Skype live. I can take Q&A, and it's there. God wants us to be healed and whole, and he says, be holy, for I am holy, talking about him. So I pray this touches somebody's heart and gives you strength to speak up, speak out. Don't be a wife that takes battering from a husband that is addicted. Talk to the pastor, get help, not being afraid, because we have to stand for truth, because when we stand for truth, the truth shall make us free. So God bless you. One last thing that I will talk about briefly. I have a teaching ministry site called patreon.com/Carol Clemens. I will put this information below on this video as I post it. And I teach on there. I have over 40 live teachings on spiritual, emotional, relational growth, on porn addiction, on marital issues. My book, God's Healing for Hurting People, that is not, the second one is not published yet. I went in and did audio book on that, video, audio, and added a lot of things. So that's Patreon, patreon.com/Carol Clemens. So God bless you. I'm going to be back on again, speaking God's truth, because it is what will set us free. This is Carol Clemens with Life Enrichment Ministries. God bless each one of you. And I rebuke the devil from trying to cause this video not to be seen, because he wants everyone to go to hell with him. And I'm determined I'm not going to hell. And I hope that's where you are. So God bless you.